Hey everybody, Barry here again. Feeling a little bit under the weather today, but we're going to keep plugging away at it. I want to get this done in a couple of days. So I just went ahead and routed my extra ground wires up through the harness. They were out here, so I ran them back through and stuck them out through here where the rest of my outputs are. So I will label those spare grounds. One of them I'll use to wire up to the Obd2 connector, wherever I put that. Okay, here it is. So here's our ground for that. Actually, I might use both of these for it because I do have two ground wires here, number 4 and 5 I think it was, that need grounds. And then I'll hook up the serial data and all that. I'm going to leave probably 6 feet of wire, or add in I should say, between here and the grounds and the serial data wire, so the guy can put it in under his dash. It'd be fine to have this just, you know, under the hood and stuff, but then every time we wanted to get a scan tool on it, you have to have the hood open and just be a big pain. So have this under the dash. And I think what I'm going to work on now is getting the fuse block wired up correctly. I don't want to loom any of this up or tape any of it before I do that, in case I do find an extra wire I need to run or something like that. I know there is one transmission wire that runs into here that I'm going to have to move to a different pin location, and I'll go over that also. So let's dive into the fuse blocks here. So right here we have, it's kind of hard to see, but C1 will be this plug here on the fuse block. C2 is this one. C3, C4, C5, 6, 7, and 8. We need to know what plugs we have, because right here it says this wire feeds battery positive to the ignition switch. So C1 and B11. So C1 we can see here. See if we can get it to focus. We can see our numbers. So here's 11, and we can see faintly, there we go. So we have A, B, C, D go in reverse. So we go down to B11. So this plug right here, we have to send out to the ignition switch. So let's see where that is on our connector. Just got to see which way this orientates. Okay, just figured out. This plug-in is not this one. This one is actually C2, so it goes in the middle. So I'm going to leave this for now until I get the actual connector, and we'll go on from here, see what else we got to do. And again for C1, A9 pink. This is from the ignition switch. It's hot in run and start. This is what powers up the fuse block. So when I get that plug in, I'll get that. Now we can continue on to C3, which will be 1, 2, 3. So C3 is this plug in here. I'll dig that one out of a pile of wires. That's C3 wire F1 is a gray wire. Power feed out to the fuel pump. So that's a nice one to have too. Alrighty. So we found our C3 connector. That one plugs right in there. And we follow this one back. I'm going to take a very educated guess and say that this is the fuel pump connector. So which wire am I going to need? I think it's either gray or purple. So I'll strip this whole harness and save every inch of that wire, so the guy doesn't have to add any in. He can just hook it directly up to his fuel pump. I'm pretty sure it's just a single cab truck, so this wire will be more than enough. So before we start, I'm going to show which terminal it has to be. So C3 terminal F1. C3 is here. Yep, C3 is this top one. Just got to double check. So C3, we can see our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and A, B, C. Everything sort of goes backwards. So C3, F1. So F, pin 1. So this corner one down here, which is going to be, yep, gray wire. We've confirmed. So we'll follow the gray wire all the way back to that plug-in and pull it out. Alrighty. So we have our F1 plug wire pulled out. There it goes. All the way down to here. And I got it pulled out of the harness, which is quite the mess now because I got all the lumen stuff took off. So that goes, there we go. Here's the end of that one. So I'll label that now and go on to the next plug. Here we can see we got the wire tied up nice to fuel pump positive. So this will provide wire to the fuel pump, provide power to the fuel pump. I'm not going to deep in any of this plug in until I know for sure that I don't need any of it. And that means when I'm done and I go through this paperwork here, then I'll start deep inning these plug-ins here. Let's see what we have next. Okay, so I read over our paperwork here, and this is actually the only wire I need in this plug-in. So I'll go ahead and deep in this. And it's actually very simple to deep in these. You just take out your lock here, so don't stab yourself. This is the lock. So we check out our connector and we can see the one that's moving here. There's a little locking tab on behind this connector. So usually I use a small screwdriver, I just can't find one at the moment. So you unlock the tab, pull the connector straight out. That's as easy as it is. And this looks a whole lot cleaner. Look at that. I'll put the locks back in a second. There's not actually much to the locks. We just take it like this and click. Nothing serious at all. You can see, oops, that the lock has 2 long and 2 short prongs. The short prongs are obviously because our bolt would interfere if it had 2 long ones. So we just put the longer ones on the outside, push it in until it sort of clicks, and that'll lock the terminals in place and they won't be able to come out. All right, here we have our C1 connector. So C1 B11 red wire. This feeds 12 volts to the ignition switch. Okay, so C1 connector, B11. So 12 will be right here. And this is 11 right here. I know it looks kind of funny, but the number is in under the pin in this case. So right here, and that would be our red wire right here. So we need that one. C1 A9 pink. This is what comes from the ignition switch. So this is what powers up the fuse block. So A9, A 12, 11, 10, 9 will be the first occupied one on this connector, which is this pink wire here. So it seems to be we only need these 2 wires. We can deep in all the rest of these here. So we're starting to get down to the end of it now. We have our fuel pump with C3. This here is C1 with our pink wire, which powers up the fuse block, and our red wire here, which goes out to the ignition switch. Basically all the switch does is completes this circuit and powers up the fuse block. All right, I'm going to try to do this without making it confusing because it took me quite a while to decipher this. So we need to connect C100 pin C, which is pink. I have the connector right here. This is pin C, which goes which goes A, B, C. That's this pink one here, which I cut off the end of the harness. So that's off the end of this plug in here. Give you a good look at it. This wire goes from C100 pink C, or pin C color pink, you can see here, and to the fuse block C2, which is this one, pin E2, which E is here. It goes A, B, C, D, E backwards, which we can see right here, A, B, C, D, E, and 12 is at the top. So it's E1, 2, which we verify here. That's the second port. Inside the fuse block, it goes and comes out on C2, F2. C2, F2. So it comes out directly next to it on this double wire here, and goes down to the PCM and the transmission to power those up. So obviously this wire has no power on it right now. So what I'm going to do, there's a couple of ways to do it. You can run this wire to somewhere in this block to give it power with key on, or we can just remove this pin down here, this double wire pin on C2, F2, and put it somewhere and move it to location that has key hot 12 volt. It says one such pin is C2B9, which is key hot for electric throttle control. This doesn't have electric throttle control, so the slot will actually just be empty. So that is C2B9. So B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is this one right here, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Right above this double orange, there's an empty spot right there. So I'll take the connector out of here and put it over here. All right, so we'll take out our lock. Pop that one out just like the other one. And we'll pop the other one out. So we can take out this wire because it's not going to be used anymore. Okay, that wire is out. We can see the connector. And I'm going to get rid of these after when I'm done. This double pink here has to come out because that's the one we're going to move. So we'll unlock that one. Here's our double pink. And we got to move that to C2 connector B9. So over here is B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This empty spot right above the orange that we talked about earlier. Try not to bend the connector or nick any wires while you're doing this because it's kind of tight. And find the direction that the plugs are in. Let's go this direction. And right above the orange here, pop this one in. It is kind of hard to get it in right the first time. And here we have it plugged in. Directly above this orange wire. So we'll just check to make sure we have A, B, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and our wires in 9. So we know we got that done correctly. We have our C1 and C2 done. All the wires that we don't need taken out, so it looks a whole lot better. C3 is done. Now we just got to do the fuses. So I've got highlighted which fuses we're going to need, like ignition one, you know, engine, ECM, all that stuff. And this one right here, I've got trans fuse written on. That's electronic throttle control. which on here, there's already a fuse put in. So that's fine, even though it didn't actually have it. And I've got X'd out fuses that I know for sure we're not going to need, like backup lights and turn signals, the horn, courtesy lamps, stuff like that. So I'll pull those out just to, you know, clean it up a little bit, stuff that we don't need. Like the horn fuse, that one's actually broken, I guess it was dropped. So we'll pull out a couple of these fuses just so if you ever got to do any troubleshooting, you won't have to go looking through a pile of fuses. All right, we're done cleaning it up. This is a pile of fuses that the person's not going to have to look through if they got an issue. Pretty basic now. There's a couple there that I wasn't quite sure about, so I left them just to be sure. It's not going to hurt anything because we don't have pins in the harness anyway, so it's not like it's going to ground out or anything. It's just going to be a dead circuit. So here's our Obd2 connector. We need pin 2, which is our serial data wire. We can see it says 2 right here for the purple wire. Pin 4 and 5 are our grounds. That's both of these black wires here. The green we're not going to be using, so I'll pull that one out. And pin 16, which we can see, if I can get it to focus, right here is our orange wire. That's going to be 12 volts battery. So I'll run that back to the fuse block here also. And we'll get this out. Two grounds right here, purple wire, and orange. I can only even find an orange with a black stripe, but it serves purpose. So it's 6 feet-ish, might be a little more, but I've got them taped on the ends, so you know it won't sprawl out all over the place on me. And I'm gonna go ahead and join these now, and I'll join our wires after over here. One side all connected up. I twisted the wires around, soldered them first, and then used the heat shrink. This is a really good heat shrink that I've showed in my videos before. It's wicked. 41017. You can get it at CarQuest. It's like 20 bucks a bag, but there's a lot. And it shrinks 4 to 1. And it also has glue in it. So you can see that you're not going to get any water or any corrosion or anything in your joins there. Now I'll get to the other side. We're starting to get some real progress. So for the 12 volt positive, I ran it over and spliced into this one. That's a 12 volt hot at all times. Our 2 separate grounds and our serial data wire, which is green coming out of the PCM, but purple off the end of the connector. So that'll work fine. But I feel like this will be plenty of length. I think that'll work fine. That's probably well over 6 feet actually. But if it's a bit too long, that's a lot better scenario than it being too short. So we have our Obd2 connector all wired in. And I guess now we can start tidying this harness up and getting it loomed back up. Exciting. Another thing I had to kind of battle with was, we can see this real thick purple wire right here, this one. That is the wire that goes out to the starter that controls the starter solenoid, which starts, you know, cranks it. I was wondering how that got power from the run signal. I did do a little bit of research. Here is our schematic. This leads directly from the start position on the ignition down through neutral safety switch. After that closes, starts, goes to the starter relay up here. So we need to find C2 F11, which we have our C2 block, and F11 is this yellow wire right here. This goes, now I'm doing this backwards, so this is coming from the starter relay back to, there's two separate diagrams here, but this is for manual transmission, automatic transmission, and this is what we have. We have a 4L60, so we're going to go to left path. And that comes up to pin G on the neutral safety switch, which is right back here. I found out this is the neutral safety switch connector. Here's our yellow wire, and we can see it's upside down. That is pin G, in fact. So we found our way this far. On the other side of the neutral safety switch, we have pin E, which would be a purple and white wire. So we check on our connector again. Pin E, this is A, B, C, D. Pin E, which is right here, purple and white. So that's good. We follow that back here up to the only purple and white wire in this harness, which is this one right here. And we can see that runs up to here, which is connector 2 F10. And we look at when it leaves connector E, it goes up to C2 block F10. That makes sense. Now, this is the engine wiring harness junction block. So inside of here, it goes in through F10, C2, and comes out of C1, C10. So to test this, I have my ohmmeter on continuity with a beep. So I'm just going to stick my probe down here and do it one-handed. Here we go. And now we'll look for C1, C10. Our C1 connector is this one here. We have to look for C. Let's see if we can get it in the way here. So we can see our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 right here, and A, B, C. Wait, no, C. Here we go. And we have a beep. So that means we have continuity. So this wire then goes, after a little while, through the junction block in the firewall and stuff up to the starter. So, all right, move the wire over to C1, C10. We have our probe left in here. I'm gonna go ahead and check it. Let's see if I can get this one-handed again. We have beeps. So that means we finally have our starting circuit done correctly. We got a lot of progress done today. Fuse block is finished up. Not bad, 4 wires to make the vehicle run. That's including a start circuit that a lot of people don't use. So, a brief overview. Obd2 is connected. Fuse block is done. This is all cleaned up. PCM connectors are done. Everything is stripped. I do have one repair left to do, which is not a normal thing, but whoever scrapped the vehicle initially cut all the transmission wires off by accident. They were cutting the cats off and kind of missed. So I'll repair all those wires. They're heat shrinked, but I want to solder them just to make sure it's good connection there. So I'll finish that tomorrow. And hopefully after tomorrow, this will be done and we'll be able to get the guy's truck running. And that'll be really, really exciting. So as always, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to keep along, and have a good night, everybody.